The birds outside your window are having a conversation right now. Not about the hawk in the oak, not about the cat from 2 houses over, not even about you. Though I want to be honest with you, you do come up sometimes. They're talking about something else. Something that has been running continuously for about 45 million years. Long before your yard was a yard. Long before your neighborhood was a neighborhood. Long before your species had developed the patience to wonder what that sound in the trees might actually mean. I noticed this for the first time about 2 winters ago. A Tuesday morning, 5:45 or so, before the coffee had finished. I was standing at the kitchen window watching the Tuesday couple, the chickadee pair that has come to my tube feeder for 4 winters now, regular as a standing appointment neither of us made. They weren't alarming. No hawk out there. No cat on the fence. Nothing moving but the 2 of them. And yet, they were talking. Constant, quiet, close-range noise back and forth in the bare maple above the feeder, like a conversation you were almost close enough to hear through a wall. I had been hearing that sound for 4 winters. I had been calling it background. That morning, I stopped calling it background. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, subscribe before we get into this, because once you understand what the birds in your yard are saying to each other when they have nothing to say about you, you will not be able to unhear it. Today we're going through 8 categories of bird communication that exist entirely outside of alarm systems, predator detection, and anything that involves a threat. 8 types of language the birds outside your window are using right now, about food, about territory, about partnership, about memory, and about something at the end of this list that I've been sitting with for 2 years and still don't have the right words for. Stay through all 8. The last one is the reason I started paying attention in the first place. Number 1. The food announcement. Here's something that took me longer than I want to admit to understand. When a chickadee finds food at your tube feeder, it doesn't just eat, it makes a decision. And part of that decision, regularly, involves communicating the situation to other birds before it touches a single seed. The research on this, work Cornell has been building on for 30 years, shows exactly how complex this is. The black-capped chickadee's call, what most people hear as the simple chick-a-dee-dee-dee, contains at least 17 distinct note combinations carrying specific information. The alarm function of the D-note sequence is real, and you may have seen it covered before. But the alarm coding covers 1 syllable of what is actually a much larger vocabulary. The rest of the call complex carries information that has nothing to do with predators, food quality, food type, food location, and social context that other birds understand and respond to in measurable ways. Pay attention to this. A chickadee approaching your feeder makes a different sound from a chickadee landing on it. A chickadee flying away with a full sunflower seed sounds different from one leaving with an empty hull. These differences are documented. They are responded to differently by other chickadees and by birds of entirely other species, blue jays and nuthatches and tufted titmice, who listen to chickadee foraging calls the way you might check a coworker's face before asking how a meeting went. Blue jays take this further. A jay that locates a quality food source, a full sweet cage on a cold morning, a reliable acorn patch at the base of the oak, produces what researchers at the University of Washington have identified as an assembly call. It functions as an invitation. Other jays come. American crows have a parallel system, though in crows, the social arithmetic of shared versus cached food makes it considerably more complicated. What matters for your yard is this. That feeder you filled this morning is a node in a food communication network that runs independently of you, your schedule, and your awareness of it. Your birds know where the food is. They know when it's good. And they tell each other. The network runs whether you know about it or not. Number 2. The soft conversation. This is the one I was hearing on that Tuesday morning and calling background for 4 winters, and it's the hardest to notice because it is quiet by design. Contact calls are not alarm calls. They are not territorial song. They are not food announcements. Contact calls are the low, close-range vocalizations that pair bonded birds, and birds traveling in winter flocks use to maintain awareness of each other when visual contact is limited. Chickadees produce a soft, rolling gargle. Carolina wrens chip to each other in a register so quiet it barely carries to the next yard. Tufted titmice exchange short whistles with their mates that sound nothing like the loud seesaw they use for territory. White-breasted nuthatches have a contact call so understated that it took me 3 winters of paying careful attention before I could reliably separate it from ambient yard noise. What all of these sounds are saying at their most basic is, "I'm here. Where are you?" That's it. The entire surface content. Research published in Animal Behavior, alongside work out of Cambridge, has found that the exchange isn't just about passing information, it physical calms them down. Birds who maintain regular contact calls with their mate show measurably lower stress hormone levels than birds who are temporarily separated. The conversation is about more than location. What that more is, the science is careful about naming. I have been a little less careful about naming it in my own head, on a cold morning, standing at a window. At 5:45 on a Tuesday in December, the couple in my maple will sit in the bare branches for 10 or 15 minutes, running their contact calls back and forth before either of them moves toward the feeder. Not alarm, not song. 2 11-gram birds in a cold tree, confirming to each other that they made it to another morning. I had been calling that background. I want to be honest about that. Number 3. The legal document. Every morning, somewhere between 45 minutes before sunrise and about an hour after, your yard hosts what I've started thinking of as a legal proceeding. Most people call it the dawn chorus. They experience it as music. I understand that, but music is not what it is for. The male northern cardinal singing from your holly bush or your back fence at 5:50 on a March morning is not performing for you, for the morning, or for any reason that has anything to do with beauty. He is filing. What you're hearing is a property declaration, a unique, individually identifiable song that broadcasts the holder of this territory, the extent of these boundaries, and the readiness of the holder to defend them, to every male cardinal within a radius that can reach a quarter mile in the right acoustic conditions. The song is his deed, and property in bird society does not vest permanently. It must be redeclared each morning, or it lapses. Sit with that for a moment. Your yard changes legal status every night. Every dawn chorus is a new filing. Research from the University of Exeter, in collaboration with labs at Ohio State, has documented what happens when 2 male songbirds engage in countersinging, standing at a territory boundary and trading song phrases in real time. The exchange follows conventions. There are recognized phrases for challenge, for counter-challenge, for willingness to escalate, and for willingness to withdraw. Researchers have decoded enough of this to know that a male will use different song phrases when directing his song at a rival versus directing it toward a nearby female, sometimes within the same 4-minute window. Same bird, same throat. Different vocabulary for different audiences. It is not music. It is not performance. It is a conversation with hard content addressed to the male 1 yard over, with absolute consequences for the birds involved. The birds in your yard know exactly where the property lines run. They negotiated them at the start of breeding season. They re-ratify them every single morning. The territory map of your backyard has been under continuous renegotiation for longer than your deed has been on file. Number 4. The private channel. If territorial song is a property declaration, there is another vocalization system operating in an entirely different register, one that researchers had difficulty studying for years because it requires getting close enough to mated pairs to hear it without disturbing the behavior you're trying to observe. Researchers call it subsong. Some call it whisper song. I think of it as the private channel. Whisper song is the soft, close-range, rambling vocalization that mated birds produce in proximity to each other when no rival is present. It is quieter than territorial song by several decibels. It is structurally more complex, longer phrases, more improvisation, less repetition, It does not carry across the yard. And it occurs almost exclusively when the singing bird's mate is nearby, within a few feet, and the immediate social environment is calm. What the Max Planck Institute for Ornithology has documented across multiple species is that whisper song functions as a maintenance mechanism for the pair bond itself. Males who produce more whisper song for their mates show higher rates of cooperative nest behavior and lower rates of mate abandonment across the breeding season. This is not announcement. This is not territorial advertisement. The research describes it carefully as a close-range bonding vocalization. Now watch what happens next. Research from Cornell has found that in several species, including northern cardinals, the female produces her own whisper song in response, and the male adjusts his phrasing to hers in real time. She leads the exchange sometimes. He follows, back and forth, in a register so soft that a person standing 6 feet away might not hear it at all. This is not metaphorically a private language. Structurally, it is exactly what it sounds like. A private two-party conversation between two birds who know each other, directed exclusively at each other. It was not made for you to hear. The fact that you sometimes can is entirely incidental to its purpose. Number 5, the thing you've been calling background. I want to be careful with this one, because I'm going to describe something I did for a long time before I understood I was doing it. And if you recognize yourself in it, that's not a failure. It's just where most of us start. I started there. You have been living next to a communication system more sophisticated than anything the human species built for the first 10,000 years of civilization, and you have been treating it as background music, not as a figure of speech. The birds in a typical suburban yard in the eastern United States produce somewhere between 40 and 60 distinct vocalization types per morning, not calls from 40 to 60 birds, 40 to 60 categories of communication, each carrying specific information aimed at specific receivers with syntax that other birds understand and respond to. There are researchers who have spent their entire careers on the vocal complexity of one species. The black-capped chickadee alone, based on work compiled through Cornell and confirmed by independent field studies, has a documented repertoire that is still being fully mapped. And the default setting for most of us, for me, for 4 winters, is ambience. Nice to have on in the morning, goes well with coffee. But here's where it gets into territory I find genuinely uncomfortable to sit in. The communication system running outside your window has regional dialects. It has learned culture. It has individual voice recognition, features that structural linguists have identified as the hallmarks of language, not in a poetic sense, in a peer-reviewed, replicated, published in journals sense. And it has had those features for tens of millions of years longer than we have had them. I'm not going to tell you that makes birdsong more important than human communication. That's not the point. The point is that I spent 4 winters listening to one of the most structurally complex communication systems in the natural world, and I was using it as hold music while I thought about grocery lists. I'm going to assume I'm not the only person who started there. Number 6, the classroom you didn't know was in your yard. Most of the backyard songbirds you watch every morning were not born knowing their songs. They learned them, not from genetic programming alone, from listening. The process is called song ontogeny, the way a young bird learns to speak, not just from its genetics, but by listening to the adults around it, trying to match what it hears. What this means in practice is that a young male chickadee or a young male cardinal hatched in your neighborhood this past spring spent his entire first summer listening to adult males around him. He was building a song template. He was comparing what he heard to what he could produce, adjusting until the gap narrowed. By next spring, when he sings his first territorial declaration, that song will be a learned artifact of your exact yard, this neighborhood, this exact population of birds. Here's what makes this structurally more significant than it first appears. Research on song dialects, long-term fieldwork at the University of California, Davis, and at institutions across North America has documented that bird songs vary geographically in ways that are culturally transmitted, not genetically fixed. Two white-crowned sparrows from populations 15 miles apart can have measurably different song dialects. Those dialects persist because young birds learn from local adults. The young bird learns the local way. He sings it. The next generation learns from him. The way birds sing in your yard is specific to your yard, not just to the species, not just to the region, to this population, to this set of birds that has been learning from and teaching each other across however many bird generations your yard has hosted. The Tuesday couple's contact call pattern, the specific note sequence, the timing, the rhythm of their back and forth on a Tuesday morning in the maple, that is a local dialect. They did not invent it. They learned it from birds before them. And the fledgling that was somewhere in your maple last July was taking notes on this exact yard, on how this place sounds. Those notes went somewhere. Number 7, moving without a leader. This one is easier to miss in a backyard than in an open field, but it happens in your yard every winter if you have a mixed flock, and once you know what you're looking at, you will not be able to watch the feeder the same way. Across the eastern United States in the cold months, chickadees don't move through the landscape alone. They travel in what researchers call heterospecific flocks, mixed species groups with chickadees at the core, tufted titmice filling the canopy layer, white-breasted nuthatches working the tree trunks, downy woodpeckers moving through the lower branches, sometimes a Carolina wren on the fringe. These flocks run a regular circuit, returning to the same food patches every day or two. In a consistent sequence, they are not wandering. They are running a known route. The question that came up repeatedly when researchers began studying how these flocks coordinate is deceptively simple. How does a group of 20 or 30 birds with no designated leader change direction simultaneously? How does your entire flock drop from the feeder to the holly bush in a single motion with no visible signal you can catch from inside the window? Research published in Current Biology and follow-up flock dynamics studies has identified a set of what scientists cautiously describe as coordination calls, short, specific vocalizations that function in the context of a foraging flock, as what researchers have begun to call let's move signals. When a bird produces this call, nearby flock members orient toward it and begin moving in the same direction. The signal propagates through the flock faster than any individual bird could plan a response. At large scale, 30,000 European starlings executing a murmuration direction change in less than 70 milliseconds. The same principle produces what looks like physics. At the scale of your winter flock, it produces what looks like instinct. Neither one. Stay with me here, because this is the part worth knowing. It's usually the chickadee that initiates, not the biggest bird in the group, not the oldest. The chickadee, which has the widest documented vocal repertoire of any bird in the typical eastern woodland flock, is, in a very real biological sense, the communicative center of the group. The small bird your neighbors probably call the cheerful one is, functionally, running the meeting. Number 8. The conversation that will still be happening when they're gone. I've saved this one for last, because it has to be last. The Tuesday couple has been coming to my tube feeder for 4 winters. 2 birds, 11 grams each, the weight of 2 pennies stacked together, running the same circuit through the same yard. Knowing the geography of this small suburban lot in Northern Virginia, the way I know the grocery store I've been going to for 5 years. They have been contributing to the sonic record of this place for 4 winters, their contact calls, their foraging sounds, the specific back and forth rhythm of a Tuesday morning in the maple. All of it is part of what this yard sounds like now. Here's the thing I've been sitting with for 2 years and still don't have clean words for. When the Tuesday couple is gone, and they will be gone, black-capped chickadees live between 7 and 12 years at the outside, and we're already 4 winters in. The language of this yard will not go with them. The patterns don't die with the individual bird. They are passed down locally, sometimes across 40 or 50 generations. The young bird that sat in the maple last July, the one I didn't notice, the one I never named, it was listening. It was building a song template that includes the Tuesday couple's specific contact call pattern, the rhythm of how this yard sounds on a cold morning, the particular back and forth of these two birds in this maple above this feeder. When the Tuesday couple is gone, the next generation of birds in this yard will still know what the Tuesday couple knew. Not who they were, how this place sounds, what the safe approach sounds like from the south side of the yard, what the morning contact call sounds like at this feeder. This is not a metaphor. This is what cultural transmission of bird vocalizations means when you follow it down to the level of this one yard. These two birds, this exact winter. The birds at your feeder this morning are talking to birds who don't exist yet. They are encoding this place, the sounds of it, the safety of it, the local vocabulary of it, into a transmission that will outlive every individual bird you can see through that window today. What your birds are saying to each other right now will still be being said in this yard by birds you will never meet, long after the birds you're watching are gone. I don't have better words than those. And I've been trying to find them for 2 winters, what I do now that I didn't do before. On Tuesday mornings, when the couple is in the maple, I stop whatever I'm doing. I stand at the window. I get quiet, not because I think it matters to them. I don't think it matters to them at all. I think it matters to me. 2 winters ago, at 5:45 on a Tuesday morning, standing at the kitchen window with the coffee still brewing, I thought I was watching 2 birds wait for a turn at the feeder. I was watching one small thread in a communication system 45 million years old, sending a routine signal to the thread 3 feet away in a dialect that was already ancient before my neighborhood was built. The yard doesn't need you to know any of this to keep running. The birds were having these conversations before you moved here. Some version of them, passed through birds you'll never meet, encoded in patterns you can't see, will be having these conversations long after you've moved on. The system is not for you, but I've found that knowing it's there changes the morning. I stand at the window a little longer. I open the back door a little quieter. I listen before I do anything else. And sometimes on the right kind of morning, cold, still, the kind where sound carries across the whole yard at once, I can hear all of it at the same time. Not one sound, a society. Leave it in the comments if something like this has happened to you. A morning when the sound outside stopped being background and started being something else. I want to hear about it. I read everyone. I'll see you in the next one.